Spoiler alert, it did not go well. Hi guys, and welcome to Organized ADHD Chaos. Today I'm starting a new series about attending college with undiagnosed ADHD. Spoiler alert, it did not go well. But with every experience, you learn. But before we get to that, if you like this video, please click the thumbs up to like it. And if you really liked it, please click subscribe. I'm going to start out with my first 2 years in college. So to do that, we start out actually in high school and my thought process behind going to college right away. The reason I went to college right away is because I didn't really even know that there were other options. I didn't know what else to do. I had had jobs before, but nothing that I wanted to make my, full-time job to support myself. So I decided to go straight to college after high school. Now in high school, my grades were up and down. I very rarely studied. I was completely unorganized. And my junior year of high school, I actually failed a few classes and wound up having to take extra classes over the summer in order to even graduate on time. But my senior year, I was on the honor roll the entire school year. So that shows you I was never very consistent. I was up and down. But I thought that I wanted to be a psychologist. And so going to college was pretty much the only option that I felt that I had. Now my grades, like I said, were up and down. I was probably right around the middle of my class because even though I got some really, really low grades, the grades that I didn't get really low grades in, or the classes I didn't get really low grades in, I got really high grades in. So that kind of averaged me out, and I was about in the middle of my class. And then I took the ACT, which, as you know, is a standardized test. Back then it was a little fill in the bubbles with your number 2 pencil. I don't know if they do it the same way now, but you had to take that in order to go to college, to apply to most universities at least. And on my ACT, I actually did very well on it. That's something that it's kind of weird. I didn't do well in school, but standardized tests, I could do extremely well in. So while, on a strictly educational basis, I'm not for standardized tests. For me, they worked out well. So I was one of the lucky ones that it worked out well. My grades were not high enough to get me into a lot of colleges, but with my ACT factored in, that opened up, other doors. And I had my heart set on a private college that was about half hour, 45 minutes away from where I grew up. This was a very expensive college. It actually probably cost about what a state university would cost now. But this was way back then, and it was very, very expensive. So I decided to go to community college my first 2 years. And so I started community college the fall after I graduated from high school, and my major was psychology. I had a job in a drugstore. There were a few people I hung out with, but, social life, not much of one. Every once in a while I would hang out with people. I mostly went to my job and went to school. When I went to school, I would show up with my books and one of those single spiral notebooks to take notes. And I used the quotes because what I did was not good note-taking at all. I would either copy everything that the instructor had written down, or if they had one of those little outlines on the overhead projector, I would copy the outline word for word, which then really didn't mean much to me later on when I looked at it. Or, I'd write a word or two down Again, that didn't mean much to me when I looked at it later on, if I looked at it later on. And I didn't really read the materials or anything like that. I had never learned how to take proper notes. I had never learned how to study effectively. And so most of the time I didn't. And I also found out about skipping class. Because if you didn't want to go to a class, you didn't have to go. And that was quite yeah. I used that to my advantage. I didn't go if I didn't like the class or for whatever reason. And I really did not like my psychology class that year, which was supposed to be my major. I hated the class. Looking back, the instructor wasn't that great. But in all fairness, I also didn't read the materials or do anything I was supposed to do for the class. This was also the first time in my life that I had not taken choir. I sang all through junior high and high school, and mostly I was just trying to break away from that. That was my identity then, basically, and I didn't want that. So I was trying to break away from that, so I didn't take choir that year. That semester, I believe I failed one class. For some reason, I thought it would be just the best idea ever to go into college and take French, which I had never taken before in my life. So that's not the best idea, it turns out, especially if you're not gonna study or take efficient notes or any of that. So I wound up failing that class. But I did fairly, okay in my other classes. I think I wound up with a B or C average for the semester. So, pretty decent. C. Okay. I wound up with a C for the semester, but still pretty decent. So the second semester, I go into it. I'm still majoring in psychology, even though I'm just like, but I'm still majoring in it, still working at the same job. But I took choir that year. And I also auditioned for and got a part in a play. Now, the psychology class that I took that quarter was abnormal psychology. And I also took sociology that quarter. I didn't like either one of those classes. I was bored to tears in sociology. And then I took abnormal psychology, and I really hated that class. I wound up getting a C in that class too. But the class messed with my head. I thought that I had everything that we talked about. We talked about depression. Oh, well, I feel this way, this way, this way, so I have depression, which, okay, actually I did. And then same thing for anxiety. But then we started talking about other things. We started talking about bipolar and dissociative disorder and antisocial personality disorder and borderline personality disorder and schizophrenia and all these other things that I wound up, every time he talked about something in class, I wound up thinking, I have that. So that wasn't the best subject for me to be in at that point in my life. And also, being in choir and in the play reminded me how much I enjoyed singing and how much I enjoyed acting. And so I thought, well, I don't want to do the psychology anymore, but maybe music, maybe that would be what I could do. And so I decided to change my major to music. And when my parents asked me, well, what are you going to do with that? I was like, well, I guess I'll go into education, because that's generally what you did if you wanted to study music and be realistic about what was going to happen in your life. Plus, I wanted a family and regular family life. And so, okay, well, that'll fit in. I'll do that. So my second year, I started out majoring in music. But I took my first music theory class that year, and I loved it. And I think I got a B in it, which at that time was I still rarely studied. So that was a huge, huge thing. And I was very, very happy in the music classes that I was taking. I still skipped classes that I didn't like. And during that time, I was also in a very serious relationship, but it was not a healthy situation. And so that was a bit of a distraction too. But I did, again, pretty well that year, or that semester. And so the second semester, I was still very happy in music. And I had to decide where to go after I was done, because I was at community college and it only goes, freshman and sophomore year. And in order to enter the university as a junior, I had to have an associate's degree. But I was still skipping class a lot. And I wound up failing one of my science classes. And I had also either failed or dropped my history of Western civilization class, both of which were required in order to get the associate's degree. Now, in the meantime, during the semester, this relationship ended, and it ended very badly. It was not a pretty picture. My focus on school was not there. I would go to work, I would go to school, but I wasn't really focused, and there were 2 classes that semester that I skipped all the time, almost because it felt physically painful to go to them, because I hated them so much. Neither one was something that I was very interested in. So, and if you have ADHD, you know that if it's not something you're interested in, it is almost painful to have to do it. So most of the classes that I skipped were because of that, or because I felt like I had gotten so far behind that I was overwhelmed and I'd never be able to catch up. So I ended that semester with 2 classes short of being able to graduate, and I was supposed to start at the university in the fall. And so I had to take those 2 classes over the summer. And I wound up passing, so I wound up getting the associate's degree and was able to apply as a junior for the university. So that was my first 2 years at college. Now, how does this relate to ADHD? Well, as I said, I was very disorganized. I did not have good study habits. I didn't really know how to study effectively. And I really did not listen in class all that much. My mind was zoned out a lot of the time. A lot of daydreaming. And I didn't really know how to bring myself out of that. I didn't have the coping skills that I do now, where I could say, okay, yes, that exists, whatever it was that was distracting me, but that's not what I'm focusing on right now, which is something that I've learned to do in order to get my brain to go back where it needs to be. I didn't have those skills then. I didn't even know what was going on then to even know that I needed to have those skills. And, otherwise just feeling so negative and down on myself, which is also I did a lot. A lot of times I felt really stupid because it seemed like other people in the class, oh, well, they can get it together. Why can't I get it together? And I didn't, like I said, I didn't know what was going on at the time, so I didn't even know why I couldn't get it together. So, of course, I blamed myself, thought I was stupid or lazy, any of those things. Which, none of that is a recipe for success. All right, next time we will talk about my time at the university and what happened when I went there. If you like this video, please click like. If you really liked it, please click subscribe. I am also on Facebook and Twitter under the same name, Organized ADHD Chaos. And I also blog, Organized ADHD Chaos at blogspot.com. I write about, obviously, I write about ADHD. Usually it's different things than what I've talked about in the videos, maybe a little more in depth when I write about it. And I also post links to the videos there. So if you follow my blog, you'll get links to the videos. So I hope everybody has a great week. I'll see you again next Wednesday. Be kind to yourself and to each other. Bye.